Stock slide after a firm open today. Real estate as well as utilities are the big drags. Mid-caps bear the brunt.
The Vodafone Idea board has approved a 20,000 crore equity raise that sources tell CNBC-TV18 is likely via a combination of an FPO and a preferential issue. But analysts remain wary till there's clarity and the fundraise and in the future, the stock slides in trade.
Vedanta says it has a potential to deliver a $7.5 billion EBITDA annually. It also expects to soon complete its capex and monetization exercises, while the demerger process should get done by the end of next fiscal.
The Index Committee of the NSE will meet today to conduct a periodic review of stocks in various Nifty indices. Speculation on likely entrants and exits leads to some volatility in select stocks like Shriram Finance and UPL.
Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch. I'm Nisha Podar. With me, as always, is Pavitra Parekh. Pavitra, what massive destruction of value that we have seen in the market today. At the moment, Nifty 50 at close to the low point of the trading session, 1% down in trade. And that really came in very suddenly, if you really take a look at the picture right now. But 21,980 levels, that's what Nifty 50 is holding at the moment, close to 1% down in trade. When we talk about Sensex, 660 odd points lost at the moment, closer to 1% loss there as well. Bank Nifty is also in line with the key indices, a little over 1% loss over there. The mid-cap universe, that is taking the largest amount of brunt, almost 1.8% down in trade, and advanced decline ratio. And there are no surprises because there are many more stocks on the declining side. So it's a ratio of 1:3, and that particular gap has widened a lot when it comes to the number of declining stocks really increasing in the market. So market really in a nervous state at the moment. And if you really take a look at TCS, Infy, some of the companies from the IT sector still holding on in the green when we talk about the Nifty 50 contribution.
Those are all the companies which are holding on. There's barely anything. So it's definitely been a bit of a rough day up until now. You know, we've given up that 22,000 mark as well. And like Nisha was pointing out, the fall is more pronounced in the broader markets. From the top of the trading session, the small cap index has given up around 2.5%. Today, you know, in terms of where the fall is really coming in addition to the banks, you have the auto space that's definitely correcting a fair deal. So names like Aisha, Maruti, I mean, the entire pack will be up on your screen so you can look at it. You have Reliance also, which is, you know, seeing quite a cut come through today. And the entire oil marketing space, which has really been doing well, has definitely pulled back today. It pulled back yesterday as well. So you're seeing some correction come through there as well. To add to that, you do have news flow in some stocks, which is leading to pretty swift moves. So, you know, names like Voda Idea, KFin, all of that, you know, very specific moves, but those ones under pressure. On the positive side, you have some, you know, very few names, but names like a Zaggle, something like a KEC International, which are holding up in this, you know, pretty tepid looking market. IT Pharma doing a tad better than the rest of the indices as well. But definitely a rough day for now. We'll get back to the markets, but let's concentrate on some of these individual names. And we'll start off with Voda Idea. The stock is under pressure after the company's board has approved a large equity fundraise of 20,000 crore rupees. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the company is likely to launch an FPO for the fundraise. Nisha, take us through what we know on this. They're looking at an FPO. There's no clarity really, you know, beyond this, but take us through what you know.
No, so the stock is under pressure because probably the market was expecting a little more definitive plan of some investors coming in. But what they have really stated and notified to the exchanges is that 20,000 crore rupees of equity fundraise is going to happen. And for that, the EGM will be held on 2nd of April. And they plan to do this fundraise by first quarter of FY25. So this has been notified, and they've also stated that the promoters will participate, the promoter entities will participate. Now, what I gather from sources with direct knowledge is that they are looking at the option of follow-on public offer, an FPO launch for raising a large part of this equity fundraising. And also remember that promoters are likely to participate. There again, sources do indicate that Aditya Birla Group companies promoter entities are likely to infuse funds by way of preferential allotment of shares. So a large part from FPO with a combination of pref allotment of shares by the promoter entities is the combination with which Vodafone Idea at this point, as per our sources with direct knowledge, have shared that this is the combination with which they are looking at 20,000 crore rupees of fundraise. Now remember, playback to 14th of August last year, Vodafone Idea had told the stock exchanges that promoters are okay with infusing funds up to 2,000 crore rupees. So we are going with that number. We don't have an indication on how much the promoters really can pump in. We wrote to both Vodafone Idea and Aditya Birla Group on the FPO plans, but we haven't got any comment on that.
Okay, very eagerly awaited. I think that's what the street also is, waiting by for any more details that we can pick up on this. Nisha, thanks for that. But let's also talk about Vedanta. This one is in focus because the company says it could potentially deliver $7.5 billion in EBITDA on an annual basis. A whole host of brokerages are also quite positive on the stock. So Nigel is here to take us through the details and all of the highlights of that note. Nigel.
Well, that's right. The management has made promises. Now we need to see whether or not they can walk the talk. For the time being, though, the street has read it positively. Let's run you through the big takeaways. The management says that they have a potential to deliver $7.5 billion of EBITDA in the next couple of years, which will gradually get scaled up. And how do they do that? Well, they're talking about the expansion of the zinc as well as the aluminium business. So one will be higher capacity utilization. The second factor will be the cost of production is likely to come down as well, owing to captive use of coal as well as alumina. Next up, on the debt front, that's been the biggest enemy, right, for the Vedanta group. They're talking about reducing the debt at Vedanta Resources, which is the parent entity, by around $3 billion approximately. And more importantly, it will be done without hurting or without leveraging the listed entity, which is Vedanta Limited. So that's pretty good news as well. The big trigger for the listed entity, that's Vedanta Limited, will be monetization of the steel and iron ore assets, which is now expected by the first quarter of next fiscal. Remember, the street at one point of time was expecting to be done in this fiscal in the last quarter, but now it seems to be pushed through by a quarter or so. The value that they get is going to be important. On the demerger, the management says, well, that's likely to happen in this fiscal itself, so that will unlock further value. And we have a couple of brokerages. Novama, they've gone ahead. They've increased their target price a little bit. They have upped their EBITDA estimates a little bit. They're also talking about a dividend payout of around 40 rupees per year. While CLSA, they have upgraded the stock from sell to underperform, and they've increased the target price to around 260. So they've promised the street for good things. Let's see how they deliver.
All right, Nigel, thanks so much for giving us all those details on Vedanta. On that note, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. When we return, we'll get you exclusive excerpts from our conversation with the CEO of IKEA. Stay tuned for that.
Welcome back. You're still tuned into Business Lunch, and let's now bring you an exclusive conversation. Jesper Brodin, CEO of IKEA, says that India's retail sales is very much still in its early stages. In a conversation with Shireen, he also talks about how they're optimistic about making India to really, become a service area for their export market. So let's listen in to a slice of that conversation.
You talked about the government of India, and there have been many changes in policy with the idea of encouraging companies to make in India, to make in India not just for India, but to make in India for the world. IKEA has, of course, been using India to procure for your export markets for many, many years now. Take me through what you see on that front over the next 5 to 10 years. Using India to make for the world.
I understand. No, but I think, first of all, I'm very optimistic about the prospect. There are a couple of puzzle pieces that we also need to work together, government and big companies, in order to make it happen. It's not only an opportunity that can happen, but it will happen. And the question is more, how soon can we make it happen? Today, IKEA sources about 30% of the sales already in India. And remember, India is still, retail-wise, we are still in the beginning only.
Yeah.
And normally we need some 10, 12 stores to get critical mass in more areas. So it is a game of building up the retail capacity and at the same time invest in production capacity. Normally, we would like to work with local partners to do that. We invest in the retail side and we ask industries to invest in the furniture production, if you like. And then, in order to balance the timing here, export is essential. And it will also be good for the long run, of course, for India to be taking a share in the export industry, where today India is not, I think, represented in the right levels. The Indian government has an ambition of $2 trillion for export, and we would like to offer our competence, our markets outside India, but also, of course, the growth that we are building within India to be part of that change. And in order for that to happen, I think one of the most important topics right now is to get together the quality control order question right. So in the endeavor of setting a harmonized landscape of requirements for products, that needs to be set in a way so that we, the industry in total, actually can fulfill the demands, fulfill it without adding unnecessary cost to the customers, and make sure that it's also harmonized for the export. And this is one of the things that we are now. We are on one hand appreciated to be actually part of the dialogue, but it's also one of our worry points right now. How do we make this happen so we actually harmonize for export and make sure that we are capable to deliver?
So this is an impediment at this point in time. Is it because there's a lack of regulation, or is there too much regulation? What is the big worry?
I think, it's a super interesting topic because we are impressed by the speed of the government in acting on those changes. If you look at the last period, there has been an incredible ambition to move into modernization. So the idea itself is perfect, and it's the right one to embark. For once, we have sometimes complained of governments being too slow. Now we say, wait a minute, we need to be part of, the industry needs to be part of making sure we actually can deliver to it. Yeah. So it requires, I think, a couple of more rounds of deep engagement with us, with representatives of the furniture industry in India, and to consider the benefit both of the domestic opportunity of growth, but also the opportunity of taking the export. I'm sure this will happen because it makes all the sense in the world. It's common sense. But we have still some work to be done in order to remove some of the worry points for us as a business.
All right, moving on to an important international development today. And Apple cancels plans to build an electric car. Now, according to reports, the iPhone maker has decided to shut down its electric vehicles project called Titan. After nearly 10 years of investment and experimentation, the electric vehicle project is being cancelled by Apple. Now, the decision signals an end to the company's efforts to build an electric car to rival Tesla. The Bloomberg News report also said that many of the nearly 2,000 employees working on the EVs will be shifted to Apple's AI division, and Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, one of the largest players in the EV market, bid adieu to the project through this social media platform X. Now, shares of many EV makers also rose post this particular report.
All right, pretty big news there. Apple looking to shut down their EV project. But moving on now to the latest in the Israel-Hamas conflict, Qatar and Israel have reacted to US President Joe Biden's statement that there could be a ceasefire deal as early as next Monday. Qatar has said that more needs to be done before they get Israel and Hamas to agree on any kind of deal. A Hamas official has also termed Biden's statement as premature and not reflecting the situation on the ground. NBC's Raf Sanchez has this report.
President Biden's comments that there could be a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas as early as Monday are the most optimistic words we have heard from any world leader on this. That optimism not being matched here in the Middle East. We heard from Qatar's foreign ministry where a spokesman said if there was a ceasefire breakthrough to be announced, he would look a lot more cheerful than he does right now. I spoke to an Israeli official. He said there are still very significant gaps between Israel and Hamas, and there would need to be a major shift for a deal to be in place by Monday. Hamas also pouring cold water on the prospects, accusing President Biden of political hypocrisy for saying it wants a ceasefire as it continues to support Israel's offensive in Gaza in response to the October 7th attacks. Also saying that a framework of a deal hammered out in Paris between the US, Israel, Qatar, and Egypt is merely an excuse to give Israel more time to gear up for an attack on the city of Rafah in southern Gaza. So right now, few indications on the ground that President Biden's optimistic approach is going to be matched by reality.
All right, that's the latest on Israel-Hamas war. With that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. When we return, we'll get you more news and updates on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Let's get you some more developments from the domestic news today. And the recently concluded Rajya Sabha elections in the country saw cross-voting. Now, the BJP won 10 seats, while the Congress 3 and the Samajwadi Party 2 seats. Now, the biggest surprise came from Himachal Pradesh, where Congress candidate Abhishek Manu Singhvi lost as 6 MLAs of the ruling Congress cross-voted in the elections. Parikshit Luthra, our colleague, joins in with more details. Parikshit.
Well, yes, this was a prestige battle ahead of the big Lok Sabha elections. While it does not really show the mood of the citizen as such, it does show the mood within political parties. In Uttar Pradesh, for example, now this is a big win for the BJP. They had fielded 8 candidates. They were definitely going to win about 7 seats, but they managed to win 8. So all 8 candidates of the BJP for Rajya Sabha have won in Uttar Pradesh. Samajwadi Party won 2. It seems that they won 1 extra seat because of cross-voting that has taken place in the BJP's favour. Let's also talk about Himachal Pradesh. We spoke about the big upset there. Abhishek Manu Singhvi is a former law minister, a big spokesperson of the Congress party, the legal eagle of the Congress. He lost to the BJP candidate for this Rajya Sabha seat from Shimla. Singhvi was supposed to win, but a large number of Congress MLAs voted for the BJP candidate. Now, this really puts into question whether the Congress government in the state of Himachal Pradesh can continue with majority. They are going to be bringing the budget next week. Whether they are able to pass this budget is now in question, and their strength could be tested on the floor of the assembly as well. When you speak about Karnataka, here 3 seats have been won by Congress leaders, 1 by the BJP, and there was a setback for the BJP because one of the BJP MLAs voted in favor of the Congress party. So it really shows the mood in the political fraternity in Uttar Pradesh, in Karnataka, and also in Himachal Pradesh. We also now need to know that the BJP-led NDA is just 4 short of the majority mark of 121 in the Rajya Sabha. This is important. Why? Because strong numbers in the Rajya Sabha will allow the BJP to pursue its legislative agenda and get its bills passed in Rajya Sabha quite easily. So there is a ramification for the medium term in terms of national politics as the legislative agenda of the next government goes.
All right. Thanks a lot for filling us in with all of these important details. With that, let's take a look at the market because there's really barely any respite. You know, we're still just at that 22,000 mark. We're just about above it right now, but you know, it's a 9/10 of a seeing on the index. The mid-cap index still down over 800 points. And a lot of the pockets like the PSUs, which have been seeing that solid run, that's where a lot of the cut is. Nifty, you have 43 stocks in the red, only 7 holding on with, you know, barely any gains right now. That is the shape of the market, and we will wind down on this edition of Business Lunch from the team. Thanks for tuning in. We have Mid-Cap Radar up until.